What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Hangout Spot where you already know it's Real Talk Sports Talk. We're not live from my man cave. We're actually live from my truck. It's your boy Johnny. But the show must go on. Let's talk boxing. Yep, I'm in my truck because I'm driving back home from Miami. I was actually at the fight live, the ESPN Top Rank fight last night at the James L. Knight Convention Center, which was a nice venue. A lot bigger than I thought it was going to be. It kind of reminded me of the theater at Madison Square Garden. Very nice, very spacious. Top Rank put on an excellent card, excellent show yesterday, and I had an absolute blast. Shout out to my boy X from Four Corners Boxing. He was there on hand with me, and we did it up, man. We lit up Miami. I'm going to be dropping some shorts later on today or tomorrow, so make sure you check them out. But anyhow, Miami was pretty lit last night. Teofimo Lopez headlined against a tough competitor, Steve Claggett. And then you have Robeisy Ramirez, Cuban featherweight, former champion, who was fighting in the co-main event. He didn't disappoint, and let me tell you something. When I say the Cubans came out last night to support, that's an understatement. They came out and they were loud. It was one heck of an atmosphere. But before we get into that card, let's talk about, in my opinion, the fight of the night. The fight that I had been looking forward to for the last couple months, and obviously the fight that I missed because I was live at the Miami fights. I did happen to catch the ending of it. We were in the car. My boy X had his phone with his own apps. We caught the ending of it. But man, when I got to bed, and I didn't get to bed till like probably 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm tired. I was watching highlights, and just as I had thought, man, that fight did not disappoint. It was the fight of the night. Jesse Bam Rodriguez, unifying strawweight, unifying titles in a much anticipated showdown with Juan Francisco Estrada and Gallo Estrada. And I picked Bam to win this fight because I just think Bam is a different fighter, man. Top 10 pound for pound going in. Lots of tools in his tool belt. But I didn't think it would be easy. I thought he'd win by close decision because Gallo Estrada, he's a future Hall of Famer. But what I didn't see coming was that vicious body shot that stops Estrada, folds him. And you knew once he landed that shot, with the way he went down and the agony and the pain in his face, that he wasn't getting back up. And that, my friends, is the sign of a pinpoint perfect body shot landed by almost a perfect fighter. I mean, you know, if you thought Bam Rodriguez was a top 10 pound for pound fighter coming in, I personally don't see how you don't put him in the top 5. In fact, some people are going to put him in the top 3. And I got no problem with that. I mean, that's the thing about the pound for pound list. You know, it's subjective. It's very, very opinionated. When you ask 10 people, you're going to get 9 different responses of where they're going to put people on that list. But make no mistake about it, even though I haven't thought about where I'd put him in mine, he's definitely in the top 10. He definitely graduated from, 8, 9, 10 to top 5, top 4 with that performance, because he also faced adversity. That was a firefight from the beginning. In fact, they exchanged knockdowns, which I didn't see until I got to bed, checked out the highlights. Bam put Estrada down a couple of times, and then Estrada returns the favor, puts Bam down once for the first time in his career. But he got up, and again, faced adversity, didn't skip a beat, got up, continued to do what he was doing in the early parts of that fight. He just got a little careless, and he got caught by, again, a Hall of Fame fighter. Those things happen when the best fight the best. But it's what happens when you get up. And that, to me, was the most impressive part of that Bam Rodriguez performance. Because he got up and he continued with his onslaught. It gives you a lot of different things, a lot of different angles. Punches, inside out, sharp. Obviously, body punches. I mean, I don't know if there's a tool that he doesn't have in his tool belt. He's a special fighter. He's a special fighter. And the guys usually that fight at the lower weight divisions don't really get a lot of love other than from the other than the hardcore boxing fans. The casuals don't know these guys. But it's getting to the point where even casual fans are starting to realize who Jesse Bam Rodriguez is. He's exciting. And he's going to break you down, and he's going to put you away. He don't play games. And that type of performance against this type of fighter, like I said, definitely in the top 5 somewhere. My question is, what's next? I know he said he wants to unify at strawweight. That's probably what happens next. But they did mention a possibility of him fighting Inoue down the road. It seems like those two are on a crash course. And what a hell of a fight that would be, right? I mean, you got the monster against Pam. Two guys that, in my opinion, were born in another planet other than Earth. Both undefeated. Bam Rodriguez is a smaller fighter right now, so I doubt that happens anytime soon. And he did mention that there's some other business that he needs to take care of, because obviously he fights at 115, and Inoue is a little bit bigger. But if he grows in and he's able to move up, or they're able to look at something in the middle, I think that would be a tremendous fight. It really would. So that's positive. You know, that's something to look forward to. Hopefully we see it more sooner than later, though, not 5 years down the road. But then let's pivot. Let's pivot to Miami. Like I said, you know, kudos to Top Rank putting up a hell of a card yesterday. Bob Arum was in the house. I got a chance to see him. There were a lot of other fighters in the house. Shout out to Jared Anderson, the big baby. Cool dude. We took a picture together. Bruce Shushu Carrington, he was in the house. Cool guy from Brownsville, Brooklyn. We chopped it up for a little bit, got a picture. He was there for the co-main event. And Xander Zayas was there. Got a chance to talk to him a bit, get another picture with him. I had met him before in another previous card in Caribbean, Orlando. You know, awesome kid. He was there. Antonio Tarver. I mean, there was guys out there. Corey Spinks was there. Got a chance to meet him. So they came out, and Top Rank did it up. You know, they did it up. I mean, it started with Emiliano Vargas. There were some other fights before that, but 4 main fights, so to speak. Emiliano Vargas, who is an up-and-coming Mexican star, the son of the Ferocious, one of the greatest, legend, one of the greatest Mexican fighters, Ferocious Fernando Vargas. This is his son, Emiliano Vargas, and to no one's surprise, sensational first round knockout. They picked an opponent that was going to be there, ripe and ready for Emiliano to knock out early, and he did that. He didn't play, which is fine. If that's what they're going to put in front of you, you take care of business. You don't get paid overtime in boxing. Handle your business and move on. Now Emiliano, I believe, is 11-0 with 8 knockouts. They are grooming him to be, the next Mexican, young Mexican superstar, and he has all the tools. He's fast, he's flashy, he packs a mean punch, he's good looking, he's marketable. They're doing the same thing, with Emiliano that they're doing with Xander Zayas, trying to make him, the next face of Puerto Rican boxing at Top Rank. And the future's bright for him. So he gets his knockout, and then on the main card that started on TV, he had Nico Ali Walsh, the son of the greatest of all time, in my opinion, Muhammad Ali. He was the first fight. This was a rematch against a guy who had beat him by decision, I believe 2 fights ago, Sona Akali. And, say what you want about Nico Ali Walsh. Again, he's a very, very limited fighter, starting fighting, fairly late. As opposed to some other fighters who, start, when they're, 70 years old. He started later on. And, he's trying. He's very limited. He's nowhere near ready for any of the big boys. But he's trying. And he's a good kid. He's charismatic. I think he's good for boxing. I do. And, the guy that he was fighting, again, another guy who's cagey, who comes to fight. And I thought it was a pretty decent scrap. for the most part. Nico Ali Walsh actually puts Akali down at one point in that fight with a left hook, and I actually caught that on video. I'll probably be throwing that out in the short later on, so make sure you check that out. But then after he got up, man, he started bamboozling Nico Ali Walsh wins this fight by unanimous decision. But I don't know if you were hearing it on TV. But what's with the boos after that? I mean, the crowd was not satisfied with the decision. They feel like Sona Akali got robbed and Nico Ali Walsh got a gift. Personally, I think Nico Ali Walsh got away with one. I had Akali winning that fight, even though he got knocked down once. But this is crazy because going into that fight, this was a pro-Ali crowd. I mean, they were chanting his name in the beginning of the fight. It was loud, but those boos, like I said, at the end of the fight, while he was talking, while he was giving his post-fight interview in the ring, I mean, I could barely hear him because the boos were that loud. But, he got the decision. That's boxing. That's the way it is. I mean, judges are going to see it differently. Maybe it sets up a trilogy. I don't know. I think casuals want to see it. I'm not sure hardcore like me would. But it is what it is, nonetheless. He gets away with one, gets the victory, which moves us into our co-main event. And like I said earlier, I mean, the Cubans came out. It was loud. They came out for their boy Robeisy Ramirez, former featherweight champion from Cuba, Olympic gold medalist, best known for beating Shakur Stevenson by split decision in the gold medal match. And, he's a gifted fighter as well. He's fighting a tough guy. Brandon Benitez, Mexican guy, come forward, guard up, throws a lot of punches, aggressive, try to bring the fight to Robeisy. Was coming in on a hot streak, 7-fight win streak. And it was a good fight, but Robeisy, again, this level's, for a reason. And although there were a lot of things that Robeisy didn't do, like my boy X was saying, I mean, he didn't really go to the body a lot. I think if he would have went to the body more, he probably would have finished this fight earlier. And he wasn't throwing a lot of uppercuts until the end. Again, kudos to my boy X who called it. He called it. If this dude starts throwing uppercuts on the inside, he's going to catch him. He's going to put this guy out. And he was right. Robeisy Ramirez gives his crowd, a sensational finish, a knockout, a highlight reel uppercut, and then right that just puts Benitez out to sleep. I actually have that recorded live, and I put out a short, so make sure you check that out. You got to see that. It was live from ringside. And he wins. He wins by knockout. And now, what's next is probably a rematch with Rafael Espinoza, the guy who beat him the last time out to take his title. He was at Espinoza's fight last week, and they made it clear that they want to run that rematch back. I think that would be a hell of a good, interesting rematch. Espinoza is a problem, man. He's a big problem. He's 6 feet 1 as a featherweight, which is crazy. It's insane. How often does that happen? Probably never. And he can punch. He has long arms. He can use his reach. He can fight. In the inside. He's going to be a major problem. But let's not forget. Whether you want to say Robeisy took him lightly or not, that's a tough matchup for anybody. At that division. But Robeisy did say that if that doesn't happen, then he'd be willing to fight anybody in the featherweight division, including Bruce Shushu Carrington. Like I said, Brooklyn was in the house. He was there. And he told me he's ready for that smoke. And I think that would be one hell of a fight. One hell of a fight. So we'll see what happens. Maybe he gets the winner of Espinoza and Robeisy if they don't run it next fight. So lots of interesting stuff. Featherweight division right now is popping, which takes us to the 140 division. Teofimo Lopez, the takeover, flamboyant showman, came out to Michael Jackson dancing. I loved it. I'm a big Michael Jackson fan. And that's just what Teofimo does. He is very much interested in not just winning fights, but being a showman, putting on a show. And he was fighting a tough guy. I knew this guy was going to be tough. Steve the Dragon Claggett, who fights high guard, comes in, phone booth, in your chest, a lot of punches, inside, outside body. I mean, woof. When you fight a guy like Claggett, if you can't hurt him and put him away, then expect a long night of just back and forth. This is why when you fight a guy like that, you got to make sure your conditioning is right. Teofimo actually mentioned that after the fight. because it was that type of fight. Teofimo had to fight. This was nothing like the Jermaine Ortiz fight where he had to chase Jermaine Ortiz, couldn't cut off the ring, not a lot of action. This was opposite. I actually enjoyed it. I had some people that were commenting on social media on my page as well that were saying that it was a boring fight. I don't think it was boring at all. I think if you wanted to see Teofimo get a knockout, yeah, you were disappointed. But other than that, Teofimo did everything that he needed to do to dominate this fight while getting hit in return. You know, he wins this fight by unanimous decision. I had it a shutout, a complete shutout. There's just things that Teofimo does that just proves why he's a special fighter. I mean, the angles, you know, the combination punching, you know, the quickness, the uppercuts, you know, mixing in a body attack with uppercuts, you know, 3-punch combinations. I mean, he fought, you know, on the back of the ropes, or, you know, his back against the ropes a lot of that fight, but, you know, a lot of good counters off that. He was getting hit as well. And if there's any knock on Teo, you know, he gets hit a little bit too much for my tasting. I mean, you know, his eyes were puffy, as they usually are at the end of the fight. So his defense is not the greatest. Fights a lot with his hands, you know, down towards his chest instead of up, high guard. But against Claggett, it's hard to criticize defense because you know you're going to get hit against a guy like that. He's in your face. If you don't hurt him, and even if you do, Teofimo did hurt him at one point, you know, in the late portion of that fight with an uppercut. And it just kind of stalled him a bit. And then he was right back at Teofimo's chest. So, you know, he's a tough guy. He's a tough guy. And so you got to expect to get some punches. You got to get some, you know, expect to get hit with some punches, I'm sorry, when you fight a guy like Claggett. That's just the way it works. But Teofimo handled himself well, like I said, a lot of big shots. He actually broke a record, personal record for punches thrown and punches landed. He can throw, you know, about 1,000 punches, maybe a little bit more, a little bit less, somewhere around that range. What shocked him when they told him about it after the fight, because really, realistically, Teofimo's not a volume puncher like that. He's not like Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao can throw, you know, 1,200 punches in a 12-round fight in his sleep. Teofimo Lopez is a little bit more calculated, relies on 3-punch combination speed and movement, but he had to. It's almost like you have to against a guy like that to continually try to hurt him and keep him off you. So his condition was definitely challenged, and if it was a test, he passed with flying colors. He said that the reason why he picked Claggett in the first place was because he wanted to fight a bigger guy, because we all know he's chasing a fight with Terrence Crawford at 147. And he also knew coming in, he said that his condition would be tested. And that's one thing I can tell you about Teo. He's always in top-notch condition, I believe. But he did say after the fight that there's a possibility that he might move to 147. You know, feels like he's growing out of 140. Who knows? I mean, if he wants to stay at 140, there's some nice fights there for him there, big fights. He can unify. Devin Haney still has a portion of the title. That's a fight that I won't stop screaming for. I think they need to get it on. There's some bad blood, some history there. You got Pitbull Cruz, who's going to present the same type of challenge as Claggett, except I think Pitbull Cruz hits harder. That could be a potential fight for Teo to unify his portion of the belt. Puello, you know, who's going to be fighting, I believe, Sandor Martin. Maybe he can fight the winner of that. I don't know if he wants to fight Sandor Martin again. But Puello, Elvis Rodriguez was there. He won in one of the preliminary bouts. It was a pretty boring fight, actually. But he wins nonetheless. So there's a lot of options at 140. And if he moves up to 147, you know, I think he's catching the division at the right time. 147 is, for my entire life, has always been the division that has been one of the better divisions in boxing. Now it's almost like the weakest it's ever been, and that's not saying that there aren't some good names there, though, right? You got Boots Ennis, who is the best by far, the creme de la creme of that division, but who knows how long Boots Ennis is going to stay at 147. He's a big 147. But then you got, you know, Mario Barrios, who's just elevated to WBC champ. You got Stan Antonius, you know, that'd be an interesting fight with Teo. And you got Brian Norman Jr., who's going to be a major problem at 147. So there's names there, but for the most part, like I said, it's just not star-studded like it has been, you know, years prior. So he might be catching the division, you know, at the right time. So if he moves up there, you know, I think he'll be all right. But the good thing I like about Teo is, like I said, he's always trying to chase big fights and legacy fights. You know, the fight with Crawford, which I don't think will happen. I don't think Tevin Crawford's going to move back down to 147. I don't think it's wise for Teo to move to 154 to chase him. You know, so, but he's calling out the big names. He wants to fight for legacy, and I respect him for that. And skill-wise, when his head is screwed all right, you know, he's an A+ fighter. You know, he's an A fighter, man. You know, he can get it on, and he can potentially beat anybody. So again, great show. Thank you for Top Rank for hosting that. I had a blast meeting up with my people out there. Shout out to all my people. We had a good time. But anyhow, let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Let me know what fight you enjoyed the most. What you thought about Teo's performance, what you should do in the future, Robeisy's performance, Bam. Where do you put Bam on the pound for pound list after this performance? I'd really be curious to hear your thoughts. And as always, like I say, I don't know what you're waiting for. Smash that like button, hit that subscribe button, come support your boy. A lot of cool content coming up in the future, a lot of interviews lined up, some live shows coming up in August as well. So make sure you subscribe and you're along for the ride. But as always, thank you for hanging out with me here for a little bit on this long ride home. I appreciate the love and support. This is your boy Johnny signing out from his truck, aka the Hangout Spot. I'll talk to everybody soon.